In order to nail your shot every single time, you need these three things. Yo, what's cooking everybody? This is your boy Andy J. Welcome back to the A Squad show. ISO, shutter speed, aperture. These three things go together. You can't just use one and leave the other two. So you need to use combination of these three to get dope shots. So the first one is aperture. It actually controls two things in your camera, that is the brightness, the depth of field, which is also known as background blur, or it's called bokeh. In your camera, it's displayed as f1.4, 1.8. For example, let's take 1.8. So f1.8 will open the lens really wide, which lets in more light. It's also changing what's happening behind that person. The background will be really blurred and the image will be really bright. f1.8, f1.4 or f2, these are good for portraits or single objects. For example, like these are the three examples. If you're shooting landscapes, so you will usually shoot at f8 or f12, so most of the things will be in focus. As to say, aperture lets in more light and gives you a good background blur depending on the situation what you're shooting. In some instances, when you're shooting at 1.8, like in a sunny day, your image is way too bright, so that's when the ISO and shutter speed comes in. You will drop the shutter speed and ISO to get a proper exposure. There's one more option. You can buy an ND filter like this one here. What is shutter speed? If I would say it in simple words, it would be how fast your camera is capturing that moment. Let's say you're shooting a bird which is flying. You have to have a shutter 1/1000 or 1/800 to capture that bird sharp and clear. If you're taking pictures of kids playing, you will have shutter speed around 1/250 or 1/300. Group pictures, or if you're taking a person standing, you will have shutter speed around 80 or 100. And for sports, it depends, like around 500 to 1000. You set your shutter speed 500, take a picture, it's still blur, move it to 1000. And shutter speed is also like, if you want to take a long exposure picture, like example like this, you have to have a shutter speed or like a half a second or 2 seconds or 3 seconds. So once you get your aperture and shutter speed right, and you see that your image is still darker, that's when the ISO comes in. So ISO is like adding a fake light to your image, so the camera will add brightness electronically. So when you change ISO, you're actually changing the sensitivity of the sensor towards the light. The more you increase ISO, the more worse the image will become, the more grainy the image will become. It will become noisy. That's because you're changing the sensitivity of the sensor. So let's say around 200 or 400 or 800. So we will try to keep the ISO low because it affects your image quality. But sometimes you have to take a picture because there is no way other than increasing the ISO to take that picture. So in those cases, you have to take it or add extra light, stuff like that. Once you get hold of these three things and you understand them well, you will take your photography to the next level. I would say learn them really well, practice, because until and unless you go out and practice, it is hard to get it. So I want you to practice every day at least 1 to 2 hours, and just imagine if you do that for a year or so, you will get way better understanding of your camera and what does your lens do. Thank you so much for watching, guys. This is your boy Andy J. You're watching this on A Squad Media, and as my team says always, make media cool again. Take care. Bye-bye.